All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to tonight's unscheduled Sunday night stream. With me today, I have Andrew Cook and Nathan Crawford here to discuss everything regarding the B&R that came out. Uh, as you guys can see, these are the cards that have been banned in Classic Constructed as of tomorrow. We also have the LLing of Kano. So this is quite a bit of a shakeup to the metagame, especially heading into RTN season, which starts pretty quickly, actually, like pretty much beginning of January. I think we have a Battle Hard in Atlanta, um, and that should be pretty fun there. Always good to go to Atlanta for some tournaments. But anyways, these are the cards that LSS has selected for the B&R for just to shake things up. They did write a whole article. I'm not going to read this out to you, but I believe it is very, very well articulated. And if you've been kind of paying attention to the dev talk and just general sentiment around things, this is we knew something was going to happen. We didn't know exactly what was going to happen. But yeah, they go through a lot of these. We're going to go through those. Let's first talk about the B&R, then we'll talk about Kano, then we'll talk about heroes that have gained or lost something in this metagame. So first up, all the copies of Rootbound Carapace are banned. So this takes away the ability to decompose defensively. This is something personally I have been kind of like, okay, that's kind of that's a for those you guys went to the Rosetta world premiere. If you had a Rootbound Carapace in your deck, oh, that was such a powerful card even in sealed. But obviously in Classic Constructed, this allows Florian to get online very quickly. Verdance can play more defensive style, block with 2 cards, send back 2 cards, and basically kill you with Storm Striders. This also affects some builds of Jarl. So those are the 3 decks at the moment in Classic Constructed that are affected by this. So Nathan and Andrew, why don't you guys, I've been yapping for a little bit. What do you guys think about Rootbound Carapace being banned? And what do you think its effect on the metagame will be?
I mean, I've had a problem with this card, honestly, since day one. Basically, the idea that you can progress your quest or whatever you want to call it with fulfilling the hero requirements of decomposition without interacting with the opponent, I think leads to very degenerate gameplay that's non-interactive. And so this was on my list to get banned, so I'm glad that it actually went to the chopping block. It's very unfortunate because like flavor wise, it's I like the card. And Florian unfortunately does kind of take a hit here, but that's probably for the better. I think to decompose and actually get your hero online, I think you have to start trading cards, and that puts Verdance in a situation where she can't just block out and decompose and get one step closer. She actually has to take a little bit of damage, throw that cadaverous or the failing or the plow or whatever. And it also makes that first plow or failing typically a lot worse if you
Yep.
can't throw out a cadaverous out front. So it also, this ban actually kind of teeters those cards down just a tad because that first one's going to suck. And then so I think it's a very, very good ban.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Go for it, Andrew. I have something
I
funny.
was like every time there's been an Earth hero at the top of the meta, whether it was Florian or Verdance, like people are like, okay, something needs to be banned from this hero. Rootbound's always been at the top of the discussion for that. In some color or another, once they started introducing the color bans. And while it is, as you say, thematic, it is appropriate in a sense for these decks that are not aggressive, convert the full hand kind of decks to have defensive tools that fit their theming. I think, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go, especially because sort of in the the switch to that, every other decompose card is a 2-block as opposed to the Rootbounds being a 4-block. So it is a significant decrease in the defensive ability of those decks. And to the point about the felling things, the build of Jarl that cares about decomposing pretty much just cared about it for getting the fellings and plows online. So that's easily 4 damage out of their deck, which for when they're trying to like tempo an aggressive deck down, that's an entire card, an entire turn maybe that they've lost on that pressure. So it could be a huge deal.
To be fair, I think you could have like maybe left him with the blue one. If this does become a situation where you kind of hit him a little too hard, if we ever kind of get in that germinate situation where they're thinking about bringing it back, I think handing them the blue could be fine, because if they have to block for 2, like Cadaverous, that's a good one for one example, right? Like they're paying a cost to actually it's not too bad of a cost, because you're basically just sacking 1 value, but at least it's something. But I would prefer all colors gone, but I could see a world where you let them keep the blue.
Well,
This
in the
also-
article they said that there were new. Josh, you go first before I.
Well,
finish
I was going to let you reference the article a little bit, that they did mention that there are some cards coming for these heroes.
Yes, exactly.
So
Oh, okay. I didn't see that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
New decompose options.
they'll be a little bit weaker until Compendium comes out, and then they'll get a little bit of spice back. This also being an Earth card does affect like some of their ratios. They're going to obviously have to maintain a certain level of Earth cards in their deck, so that could also affect things. Also, no longer will I die with AB0 by like 17 arcane spells. I'm gonna get to jam my armor on something. They're not gonna just be able to block with everything, decompose, and then burn me 6 times. So that'll be appreciated. We've been talking a lot about Verdants. Let's talk a little bit about Florian. So Florian has just ridden a whole roller coaster the last couple months. So he had Scepter of Pain, and you had the whole tree and make 50 rune chance. That was back in like April, May, somewhere around there. They adjusted that. He got his Germinate taken away from him. He got his Scepter taken away from him. And he was kind of down in the dumps. They gave it back to him. He came back for like the first week and a half of ProQuest Yokohama. And then the metagame adjusted, and there was like less than 10 people, I think, on Florian at Worlds. And now, while he's down, the LSS took him behind the ship. He can join Phi. Yeah, I guess so.
In dying for someone else's sins.
So,
and Leviah.
I mean, this just like Florian was a numbers deck inherently, and Rootbound Carapace was part of that numbers game. So now he has to play underrated cards to get overrated. Sounds just like Fang. So welcome to the Fang gang, Florian. But yeah, I feel like that's going to be a pretty big hit to Florian. We'll see if he adapts. But
I mean,
yeah,
even more than
pretty
Verdance,
hard.
Florian. Yeah, Florian could play the style of block 3 cards, use 1 for offense. So taking away his defensive tools is I think a bigger hit to his play style.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we mentioned Jarl a little bit. I guess there are Earth-based Jarl decks. I don't know too much about them. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think
They'll
most
be all right.
Jarl decks were running Rootbound, at least at Red. And to be fair, Jarl has been kind of creeping up a little bit lately. So, not for nothing that he is getting smacked down now. He had a chance to be in the limelight. I don't think this will change too much for him, because on the defensive front, I do believe he has ways to replace the blocking ability of Rootbound if he wants to go that route. As I mentioned earlier, it's mainly about potentially losing 4 damage on the first felling or plow. But I think I don't know that it's really going to hurt him too much.
It does hurt Fertile Ground. The couple lists that I've been running into are running like 2 or 3 red Fertile Ground, and that card requires 4 in the banish zone to get full value. So it basically makes those cards complete duds until you can resolve the 2 fellings or plows. So once
Yep.
again, just making these earth decks, forcing them to be interactive, which I think is overall healthy,
Yep.
in my opinion.
Oh,
We have the
to be more
technology to
specific,
pull it off.
forcing them, yeah,
So chat knows what you're talking about.
interactive in the sense that they have to give the opponent the opportunity to use their defensive tools
Right.
and make them
right.
relevant to the matchup.
Right. And when you're forced to not, there's situations where with on hits you can force your opponent to pay an opportunity cost to resolve their hand. So if I have snatch at the end of the chain and you have a Rootbound Carapace, boom, blocked, done. But if you have a Cadaverous Tilling and another card and I play a snatch, well, now you have to make a tough choice. Do you want to decompose or do you want to give me another card and take some damage? And that's where the interaction kind of gets baked in.
Yep. Any type of interaction definitely improves against the Earth Heroes, because blocking with 2 cards, playing 2 cards out is going to be a little bit tougher to do. Okay, let's just quickly scan through here. Like we said that there's some cards that are coming soon. They will both be receiving new ways to decompose. They did not mention Jarl here, so this is probably like Earth Wizard version of Decompose and Earth Runeblade version of Decompose. What type it is, we will see. Of note, I would like to point out there's basically 2 types of rarities in this game. There are commons and rares that generally come in multicolors, and then there are majestics and there are legendaries, which, for example, Wrath of Retribution, Red Hot from Uprising, stuff like that, are basically majestics. When a card that is rare or common gets banned, that has a pretty big impact on the deck, because those are often really abused. They're like 6 ofs, 9 ofs. These 2 cards are going to, like, obviously they take a hit to the deck, but like I feel like these 3 are a little bit more impactful. But well, let's just move on and talk about those. Let's talk about Orb-Weaver Spinneret. So LSS graciously is going to let the assassins have their red Orb-Weaver Spinneret. So they mentioned in the article that equipping 9 Graphene Calyceras was a little bit oppressive. Also, the deck has sort of evolved into a really, really streamlined 0-cost numbers deck. And yeah, this is their way of kind of knocking it down a little bit. Often when the Arachne went first, they would just like flick one of their claves that mark you and then equip a Calycera. Now there are less ways to equip a Calycera. There's this. There's also turning into the, I forget if it's Arachne 3 or Arachne 4. One of the Arachnes allows you to
Number
equip
3.
it as well. Number 3. All right, number 3. So Nathan, I know you've played some Mario. So what do you think about this? You're muted.
Sorry about that. One thing that I really like about this band is it shows that they're thinking kind of 2 steps ahead. Because these band, like the top 3, right? Gravy, Syndra, and Verdance, they all got hit, and they kind of showed that okay, the next person that would kind of fill that space, other than maybe to an argument like Brood or Guardian, would be Mario, would be like your next best aggressive and can also outlast defensive decks and things like that. So kind of hats off to him to predicting that. And so that was really well done. And they did it in a very, I think, tasteful way, right? They could have done Savor Bloodshed to be a little bit more aggressive in the banning or something like that, but they stayed away from that and they said, okay, we're just going to take down on the consistency a little bit, and not really ruin the actual throughput of the deck. Although it can, depending on the Orb-Weaver's situation and what you actually roll on your Mario transformations. So I think it's an interesting one. It's one that didn't cross my mind, and I think it was actually really well done. The question ultimately becomes, is it enough? And I think it is. I think removing the accessibility of the graphenes is going to do a lot. But if you're in the camp of this is like taking Mario way down, I think you'll be just fine. I think Mario will stay pretty close to the top even after these changes.
Okay.
Agreed. I think it's summarized sort of as two big things that happen to the deck. One, accepting the idea that he now fully reworks the deck closer to like the week one hunted Mario builds where they were on like my higher stealth counts and like trying to leverage the base form, extra go again stuff a lot. Accepting that, it does two things. One, it is going to make it much more frequent that they have to use the hat turn one to turn into Orb-Weaver to get their Calycera. Which they were already doing a decent amount of the time anyway, so it's not that big of a nerf on that front.
They were always turning into
the bigger
trapdoor against
thing,
me and making me sad. But yes.
The bigger thing in my mind is that is 6 less unblockable damage in the deck now. So it is much more possible to take it, especially if you're a deck that has the defense reactions to do this against an attack reaction deck, but to take a defensive posture against that and grind out the game more. It's another avenue that you can approach the matchup from that may have been closed to certain heroes before. I don't think his overall like throughput of the deck is necessarily going to change because I think those have replacements, right? The yellow Orb-Weavers could be replaced by Take Up the Mantles, for example. Which, a card that come back. And if you're doing that, the blue Orb-Weavers could be replaced by some blue stealth that we weren't running before, just as an option that still feels pretty good for the hero. So he has options to replace them with, unlike something like Rootbound, where there really isn't a replacement for.
Fair. So we've been mainly basing our discussion around Mario. Does this affect Huntsman a bit, Nathan?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Huntsman was never running that card.
Okay. And does this affect Slippy?
No.
Okay. So this is basically just targeted at Mario. Okay.
I think he actually only ran the red one because he actually used it for the pump, basically.
Yeah, just for the damage. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so a little bit of a knocking down of Mario. All right, let's move on to the next card. Let's talk about Brand. Let's just kind of go on clock here. So Brand, kind of the glue piece from
Rip-Fi.
Uprising. This basically made it easier to fulfill Syndra's quest of having 3 Draconic Chain Links. This also allowed them to use their fealty on things like Chain Enders, so those Art of the whatever, instead of trying to make one of their like cut-throughs Draconic or something like that. So losing Brand with Cinderclaw is pretty big. Obviously the red was the most impactful, but most lists, I mean, if you were looking for a yellow or a blue in Syndra, this was a pretty reasonable choice. I mean, a lot of the blues, they didn't really run a lot of blues like Throw Dagger and Concealed Blade, stuff like that. But yeah, I think Syndra's regenerating a decent amount of fealty already. So this might hurt their consistency of the deck a little bit. But I think overall they were making a decent amount of fealty. So I don't know how badly this hurts. Obviously, this also hurts Fi, but we'll talk about him later. Let's talk about Syndra first. What do you guys think is the impact?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge because now you have to. I mean, to answer your question, I think most Syndra lists were, of course, on the red ones, but sometimes 1 or 2 yellows would kind of sneak into the list for consistency reasons. So about 3 to 5 is kind of your sweet spot on like how many they were running, and then 5, of course, is like 7 to 8, depending on what the deck makeup is. But what it actually does, and why I think the ban was actually not, maybe it was a little heavy-handed, but I think it's interesting the way it attacks the deck and how it basically says, okay, You want to run Ravenous Rabble? Guess what? It's going to cost you in consistency and getting your Phoenix Flame or getting your daggers back. Pain in the backside. Guess what? It's going to cost you. You don't get to just run 20 draconic cards and then 40 non-draconic cards and say, oh, I'm going to make it work, right? Now you're going to have to do the old school Runeblade math and run like your hard ratio, right? Like it becomes a little harder to kind of like check those boxes. So how does that pivot? Does it lean more on like fealty generation, or do you start running shittier versions of those consistent cards, right? Does
Ronin
yellow
Renegades.
Ronin Renegade make it
Yeah.
into the list? You
Yeah.
know, like but I'm being serious. Like that's the ultimate question that you're asking is like, which side do you go? And it's interesting no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to construct a Cinder deck list, what you run into is the fact that at 0 cost at least, you're already playing all the starters that you kind of can, that don't start becoming very conditional.
Yep.
Now, with Mario, taking a bit of a hit, but probably still being very playable, I would not be at all surprised that if anyone who wasn't already running Hunt to the Ends of Wraith would start including that, probably now in the main board,
Yeah.
because you just need that starter. But even beyond that, that's, as I said, 3 to 5 cards out of the deck, period, and draconic cards at that. So what do you replace them with to get that ratio on top of, now having your non-draconic cards and your ability to utilize the cards that want to become draconic much more heavily taxed. I know some lists weren't running Demonstrate Devotion before, which is the 1 for 4. If you've got draconic links, make a fealty.
They're all on it now. They're all on it
You
now.
got it now. And it does. So I don't think the most competitive Cinder lists will do this, but it does bring back sort of the idea of the blue Syndra, which is going to lean more on the daggers now as their starters, playing more blues, because while we said we're basically down a whole slew of red draconic starters, I don't think they were playing. I don't think the blue Syndras were playing blue brand. They might have been. I haven't looked too closely into it. They might have had other blues there, but there are reasonable blues for Cinder to be running to kind of alter the deck list in that fashion. So something to explore for Cinder players if they want to still try and make things work.
Okay, well, there is another Draconic Ninja who is actually very close to LLing. He might be...
No, he's not.
He might be stuck there for a decent amount of time.
No, he's not.
Give him until Pen. Give him until Pen. He's got a really good card there, but give him until Pen.
So 0 cost starters were very important for Fi, because you go 0 cost starter, 2 resources for Emberblade, 1 resource for your Phoenix Flame off your hero ability, and then you would end with generally a 0 cost, like a Lava Burst or something. So that was a very, very clean way to play a hand with a blue. So losing a card that was that starter is obviously very impactful for Fi. Yeah, he might be sticking around for a while at 950 something LL points. So, any other thoughts on Fi?
I mean, it does way more damage to Fi than Syndra for sure. I mean,
yeah.
Now you have to start, like, you really gotta, like, because he didn't really utilize the brand effect that much, but he damn sure needed the starter. So now that my whole joke earlier about the yellow Ronin Renegade, I mean, it might actually happen. Like that might be what you have to put in, because you don't want to start paying for stuff, because then your Phoenix Flame gets a little weird if you don't have enough chain links. So, I mean, it's definitely going to take him down a peg, but we'll see.
It's basically costing him probably like at least 2, maybe 3 value a game. So, that definitely has a big effect on his win rate. So, yeah. All right. Next up, well, we've been talking about draconic stuff. Funnily enough, Fi can actually run Wrath of Retribution, but whether or not you should, maybe.
Got you Fi, baby.
It is a legal card. Yeah,
it is a legal card. Yeah. Instead of lava bursting, why don't you just end with this, right? So, Wrath of Retribution. Now, I have to admit, as a known Kabuto enjoyer, I never really had to experience this bullshit. So why don't you guys explain to me a little bit about why this card is so good? Because I think I've had this played against me like twice in 10 months. No
I mean,
joke.
it's the card that everybody was wanting banned, right? I mean, anybody that was throwing a list out saying this is my predictions, I mean, it was basically at the top of everybody's list. It was just really silly that, Syndra could consistently put out 14, 15 with 14 on hits across 3 different chain links and also just blow you up out of nowhere, right? It was just a little too much. So taking that away just kind of removes a lot of the ceiling. That along with brand is a little heavy-handed, in my opinion. I mean, granted, where my prediction was, I said that they were going to take Wrath and then Chum. And basically that would create a scenario where there would be a lot less gravy. So I thought that that would leave okay for Syndra to like exist because more Guardian would move in. But they kind of just did the reverse and they said, okay, we're not going to hit gravy as hard as Chum. And, you know, and just basically take Syndra down a lot more, which we'll see what that kind of develops in the meta. But everybody knew Wrath was gone. I think that was on everybody's list.
Yeah, I mean, 0 for often 11 in the matchups where you were trying to set it up. That also gave you the ability to get 1 or 2 additional Mask of Momentum threats. Depending on if you get a sequence with like additional attacks in the middle of the daggers. It was a house, and so it was, in my mind, it was like a huge part of the game plan in your longer matchups, and then it was just a higher roll, I win if you can get it off in the aggro mirror matchups, which is, I think, where it was kind of the biggest feels bad, because the slower decks were teching for it. You would see decks running Stonewall Gauntlet for the Wrath of Retribution turn, which now they will almost certainly take that card out of their lists. But it's, I think, at least in my perspective, the aggro deck games, you weren't leaning on it, and it wasn't even always that great there because you were so aggressive with your dagger usage there that you couldn't always even, like, say, when you drew it, I'm going to have multiple daggers ready to go with it, and I certainly can't spend the time to arsenal it and try and set up that turn. The game's going to be over by then. So it was usually only a 0 for 5 to 7 there. Only.
Okay, so it's...
If you want a good explanation on that card and how good it is, I dedicated an entire sideboard slot, not for a matchup, but for a single card. I ran Stonewall Gauntlet in my Arachne deck.
Exactly.
Literally, not for any other matchup. Literally, it was just for that singular card in the way it works.
Fascinating.
I think,
what non-Kabuto users had to deal with.
They said in the article that most of these bans are perhaps likely to be reverted at some point in the future once we are kind of have other shakeups to the meta, because this is as I said, in large part just to stir things up for the few seasons before Pen gets out. This is one of the ones though that could be permanent. So we'll see, especially once we know what Syndra is getting out of Pen. We've seen at least a card for 5 already to help make up for some of this loss. But Syndra players, don't get your hopes too high that you'll get it back in a couple months.
Yeah, Wrath is permabanned. Now, Brand, they could maybe do an adjustment there, maybe bring back certain colors or whatever the case may be. But it's actually interesting, Andrew, that you mentioned the permanent aspect of these bans. We can look at Orb-Weaver, and of course, that's not a permanent ban. We can look at Brand and kind of say, okay, well, maybe that's not it. But I think Wrath and Carapace, they're going to be on the list for good, probably.
Okay,
we'll see, especially with the colors for Carapace. It is such a unique effect for them that I would not be surprised to see at least one color come back. Maybe the blue, as you said. I kind of wouldn't mind seeing the yellows just because the trade-off there is the you get the 1 value back when you're actually defending with it, but the pitching with it is more awkward in a deck that's playing 3-cost attacks frequently. So I don't know. I could see one or both of them coming back. Maybe not the red one. Maybe that one could be gone forever.
Sure.
But I wouldn't be surprised. Even if it's only like a, hey, let's bring it back. Okay, never mind, ban it again. If it turns out to be too much.
I'm trying to think like how they would design a card that is similar to this, but like maybe it's going to have to be
Make it an actual block card,
or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, you would make
okay.
it like a Fiddler's Green effect or something like that.
Okay.
And whenever it goes to the graveyard, you decompose or some shit. I don't know.
Sure. Sounds about right. Okay. Yeah, they'd probably make the base defense 1, and then it gets a bonus of 3, 2 and 1, something like that.
Or 2, or they can balance around that.
I think the devs joked around that all they do is decide whether a number should be 2 or 3. That's all he does. It's like, or 2 or 1, like a Traverse, for example. All right. Speaking of blue cards, we got Chart the High Seas. So obviously this affects Gravy Bones. There's no other hero that can play this. This reduces the high roll potential of some of their turns, where they could, get a it's kind of the do-all card. Because this is a Majestic in the double class, so it's like the most focused in version of the card. So it puts a blue in the yard. It pitches a card, which allows you to play potentially an ally out from the graveyard. So this kind of does a little bit of everything. There was quite a bit of discourse on whether or not Gravy should be getting his tipples back, should he be getting his allies banned. This is what they ended up on. What do you guys think about the banning of Chart the High Seas?
This is kind of the one that caught me off guard the most. And not saying that it was like a bad ban or anything like that, but to be honest, I didn't know what aspect of Gravy needed to be hit. I just knew that it needed to be hit. And so the way that I approached with my prediction saying Chum was that's like the biggest feels bad. Like there's no worse feeling in Flesh and Blood other than maybe playing against Kano than like throwing 6 damage at a Chum and you get Fearless Confrontation. And you're just like, there's just like this feeling of hopelessness, and it's not good. It's not good Flesh and Blood in my opinion. So I thought that's the angle that they were going to attack, which kind of like does 2 things. It brings down the power and it brings bad the feels bad aspect. Chart the High Seas. I don't think I've ever like had like a feels bad on a chart. Unless it hits back alley breakline. Like that's the only time. Even if it hits a perfect split of like yellow and blue, I'm like, okay, that's what the card's supposed to do, right?
There's no gold like, and all that, but okay, sure.
Yeah. I'm just like, okay, it's a good Majestic. Like that's what it's supposed to do. It's never like it's not like swell into conk and like some crazy shit, right? Like, and then they can always like hit the conk off the top now, but like of course the deck lists have innovated and they run Fiddler's Green, and that can go in the graveyard. They can gain life. Like there's a whole bunch of other shenanigans. So I mean, it's a solid ban. I just don't understand. Is it enough? Like I don't know.
I mean, if you do the math on like a Chart the High Seas high roll, this card is like it can theoretically be like a 1 card 9 or 10 in effect, because you play it, you get your pitch, you get a gold, you use that gold to get the ally in your hand out of your hand and replace it, so you're not down a card. And then, because with the resources floating, now you get your Sawbones or your Chum into play and attacking, all basically off of that 1 card.
Okay.
So it is a very potent card that he has available, and it is a high roll to get that, because of course you can only see the top card of your deck. You can't see the top 2, so you can't plan for that. But more than that, more than just taking out a playable blue from him that's a block 3.
Yep.
And be sort of a way to make use of the top card of your deck for things like you say, the Fiddler's Grave, for the backlight breaks and all that. this is also just more gold generation out of his deck again after the Tipple ban.
I guess it kind of hits just all the wickets. I guess is kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay.
So it's a one card, yeah, bring down the ceiling on Gravy. I don't know that Gravy's ceiling in that aspect was necessarily the problem. It's because, as you were saying, the decks he's gatekeeping, he probably still gatekeeps.
Right.
But it definitely, it certainly something had to be done. If you're banning these other decks, you have to do something to Gravy, I think.
So let me ask you, is it enough?
Yeah. He's still a real deck. I think 100% he's still a real deck. Is he best deck in format after this? I haven't played enough Gravy to say. That would be for other people to determine. But I think once they figure out what the best replacement for that is, whether it's, like flying high or something, like whatever the next playable blue is that helps you, have your powerful turns more frequently, then yeah, I would expect to still see him around.
I do want to point out that, again, this is a very, very targeted card. This is the double class card from the set he was released. This is kind of the equivalent of getting King Shark Harpoon banned, Palantir Aeronaut banned. Like, this was those two cards I just gave an example of are like super designed for the hero doing the thing. So like Nathan said, this basically is ticking off all the boxes of like, okay, this is exactly what Gravy wants to do. It's just like they short printed
that's right. Here's what he plays.
Yeah.
He starts playing our card. He starts playing Give No Quarter as his blue replacement. There we go.
That's right.
I wonder,
that's right. Now we're talking.
Yeah, I remember that was a. I'm wondering, they made a playmat of this card. It looks so sick, but they didn't play it, and it's a Majestic. It's one of those double class card Majestics from the set. So, yeah, play Give No Quarter. You heard it here first. Okay, so we've discussed the cards that have been banned. So obviously, this takes down. We discussed the heroes that this kind of takes down a peg. So let's talk about who benefits from this and what the metagame.
Well, first, I guess we got to talk about Kano, right?
Sure. Yeah, let's talk about Kano. So Kano
and then
has,
we can,
yeah, sure. So Kano has reached Living Legend status. He has crossed 1,000, so he is gone. So you can take out your Arcane Compliances, your AB3. I don't know what else tech you would have, but your Spell Void, I guess.
Spell Void, your Spell Fray.
Yeah. So this is a hero that did prey on a few heroes. I think Kano was one of those heroes that had like a very polarizing matchup spread. Did Kano have a giant effect on the metagame?
When you consider the calling.
Yeah. If you haven't, we won't spoil the calling, but the calling was very interesting.
Yeah.
So basically, Kano has a very, very large variance in his matchups, but his representation at events was never super high. So him leaving, it's like, okay. It kind of, what was the hero that when they left recently was like, okay, like Dash IE. It was like, okay, I guess I won't run into a fatigue Dash IE 1 in 14 tournaments.
Right.
Okay. Now you probably ran into Kano
than that, but
yeah. It's like there's certain heroes that when they got sunsetted, we're like, okay, sure. I mean, this one is a little bit more impactful because like we've all lost games to Kano that were basically unwinnable. I don't know what to say about Kano.
I mean, there's one thing that we know for sure with Kano departing the format.
Stormstriders. It's going to be.
Well, no. The one thing that we know for sure is the overall talent in draft has to get better.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the one thing that we know is that draft games are going to be harder to win because you just don't get those free games against the Kano players anymore because they're going to have to go to an actual flesh and blood deck,
Yep.
and they're not going to. They're actually going to learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate thing. So, but on a more serious note, I mean, for the longest time, Kano forced everybody to register 78 cards instead of 80 because you usually had to keep a piece in there or two. I'm curious what that does to a lot of different game plans, whether that be. I think the way to approach this hero leaving is anything that is susceptible to specific sideboard hate, you just got a lot worse.
Mhm.
I'm thinking Acilio. People can run the bell into you now at a much lower opportunity cost. Poppers for Prism, the opportunity cost on that is a lot lower now because you just have more natural space. General fatigue. If you're going for just regular fatigue, like people have more room to fit in a remembrance or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
there's just more room for that now. So
There was a uneasy truce between the Kano and the Warrior players. It's like, I don't really like you, but you keep Oldhim and Jarl fatigue decks in check, so we're cool. It was this
No,
pact
that's
actually went back to Blitz. Remember back in Crucible War Blitz, it was Ira, Kano, and Dorinthia, and back then it was just 40 cards. You didn't get a sideboard, so the
Yep.
in Hong Kong it was very funny. There was a lot of Kanos, and then there was me playing Dory, and we basically stressed the Iras out. Because if the Iras ran D-Reacts, they suck against Kano. If they run Sigil of Solace, they suck against Dory. So it's like the Kanos and the Dories basically pulled the Iras sideboard apart back in Blitz. So yeah. Anyways, I cut you off, Andrew. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, I don't know that, as you say, the Kano representation was never high enough that I think it wasn't a deck that was keeping other decks out of the meta. Like, if you were gonna play Guardian, if you thought Guardian had good stuff into the primary meta, you would run it and just say, if I ran into Kano, okay, I might have my sideboard slots for it, but it's not gonna keep me from playing that. So I don't think the meta itself is going to change, except insofar as, yes, wherever those 2 or 3 sideboard slots are the most impactful, they can show up and do a lot of work. We'll talk about sort of later what we think the top decks that maybe warrant those slots are, but it's you're going to get most of those slots back. Now, I say most. Someone in the chat was asking, how much AB do you need in the format now?
1. I think AB
So,
1.
Yeah.
Unless you really
Unless you're
want to target
fatiguing
Verdants.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have enough
that
speed
or
to kill Verdants, though. If you don't have enough speed to kill Verdants, you probably run AB 3. But yeah.
And I'm going to keep a buck. If you don't think you're running into any Vinnies, maybe AB 0 is correct.
Yeah.
Well, there's another hero that you do need to at least give some consideration to, where AB 1 or 2 can be a pretty big deal, and that's Acilio. To try and keep him from getting just the freest surges of his life off of like one lightning card. But I don't think there are many decks that would like want to run AB3 for that matchup. I think most of the ones that would try that, we would like run AB3 into Verdance and then therefore just run AB3 into him. I don't know that it's even that good into Acilio at that point, given how those particular matchups tend to go. For most decks, though, yeah, I think having the one just in case, especially if it's on a piece that is not so bad for you to run anyway, like the Assassins right now, they just got their new leg piece that's go again to a stealth attack and also has AB1, so that's just pretty free to have around. And maybe if you run that, you don't have to run another piece, even if maybe something like Black Tech or Snapdragons might generally be better. Saving that sideboard slot there by condensing the 2 roles is something you can consider doing.
Sure. One other card left the format. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Crucible of Aetherweave has left the format. Not relevant, but yes.
I don't think Verdances were running that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yep.
Technically, they could have, like, I suppose.
Yep.
But
So Crucible of Aether Revolt, the signature weapon of Kano, also leaving. I guess technically because there's no other Kano, Blazing Aether and Lesson in Lava also gone. Okay. I do want to briefly talk about whether or not Stormstriders could be looked at. Because I feel like one of the reasons we never saw Stormstriders banned was because that was like a core piece of Kano's design philosophy. Now that Kano has left, is that a thing that we can talk about now? Or is that still like, hey, we don't really want to touch the L's? I guess this is kind of like, reminds me a little bit of Crown of Seeds. Like, we didn't touch Oldham's Crown of Seeds. All right, Oldham LL'd. All right, get it out of here. I say this as
Verdance
somebody
is
that has a gold
unplayable
foil.
if you get rid of
yeah,
that card.
if you get that Verdance, that's straight up.
Yeah,
So I don't think
you
they
can-
can do that. I don't
you
think
can
they
give
want
Verdance
to do
Crown
that.
of Seeds and
Okay.
Carapace back, and you take Stormstrider,
Okay.
she's dead.
Yeah.
What
she's
if
gone.
Verdance LLs? Then we talk about it? We're just kicking the
Sure.
can down the road. Okay.
Sure.
If whatever the next wizard is doesn't care about it, like Acilio doesn't care about it, maybe. But the thing about Striders as opposed to Crown is that Crown was a frustrating card, and it like people built their game plans around it, but it didn't feel core to the identity of the heroes and the Earth talent in the same way that Striders is such a wizard card, like the whole non-attack action, playing things at instant speed. It feels just so much of the identity of the wizard that I think they would be much, even if Verdance did LL tomorrow, I think they'd be more hesitant about banning that than they would something like Crown of Seeds.
Okay.
I just think they're not going to print wizards that actually use it.
I think they're going to print
like
Blaze
Acilio.
pretty soon, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know
I think they're going to
about
stick
that.
with like the Acilio formula.
Okay.
Adult Blaze.
I think Adult Blaze is coming, but when, I don't know. We'll see. Okay.
That's the secret hero out of Pen. You heard it here first.
Yep. Secret hero out of Pen. Like, she's the Scurv of Pen. All right. So
Yeah.
now that we've talked about the cards that have been banned in Classic Constructed and Kano leaving, what does this do to the metagame? Obviously, Jarl, Florian, Verdance, Mario, Syndra, Phi, Gravy all got hit. What does that do to, the tier 1.5s and tier 2 heroes? Is there any that really benefit from... Because we often talk about this game, and we mentioned a triangle format, and often the points in the triangle defend each other from outside attacks, right? So often it's like a board state deck will gatekeep Guardians, and that allows the aggro decks to play like super aggressively, which might create some other yeah. So basically, I don't really know where I'm trying to go with this, but basically I haven't really thought out who's going to benefit from this. We're just going to chit chat and kind of figure it out. Any heroes that you immediately see, like, okay, your stock goes up here. Like, first one that jumps to me is Dio. Like any aggro deck. Like we always say, why
I think
why
Dio
play the
actually gets worse.
Second best aggro deck?
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, because my brain goes is like, you look at all of these bands, right? Verdance gets worse, Gravy gets worse, and Syndra gets worse. That automatically at least creates the discussion for defensive decks to move into the format. Because Florian also got hit, right? So, and Kano left, right? Like, if you take a defensive deck that does not shit, right? That's their game plan, is not shit. And they lost to like 4 of the 5 decks that got hit. And now they don't. Or maybe they do, but they're just represented less in the meta, so their overall win rate just goes up. However, keep in mind, Guardian players, I'm not talking to you. I can't wait for the Guardian players to be like, now's my time, and then quickly realize that it's still not their time, because that's right around the corner, but we'll see.
Okay.
I think that might be diving a little too deep on this. I don't think that um, so many heroes that Dio is bad into are going to jump to the forefront. Um, in that sense, like so one of the heroes that I've seen people talking about early on here is KO. Our good old heavy hitters KO coming
Sure.
back in.
Not that
Sort of
one.
to
Where's
fill
the other one?
in a little bit of the role of top aggro deck with Syndra taking a little bit of a backseat. Just if only because he doesn't share the same vulnerability to disruption and sort of like fatigue that something like Dio would, or again the sheer fragility that Acilio can have. Um, but if we're assuming he comes up, I think Dio's actually pretty good into KO a lot of the time, so I don't think that's a matchup that hurts him. Um, and then the Guardians are in consideration because you know Kano going helps him. As I said, I don't think Kano was so much of a gatekeeper that that would change the Guardians matchup spread that badly.
Right.
But if I'm looking across just some of the matchup data, something like Jarl, for instance, although he did take a bit of a Rootbound hit from the Rootbound Carapace hit, I think the other top decks getting hit is a net boon for him.
Mhm.
And if I look at something like, some of the warriors as well, something like Fang, I think doesn't mind seeing all these bans that happened.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah, I think
uh,
most of the Warriors are pretty happy with this because we didn't get anything
right.
taken from us.
And again, Dio's good into Fang,
Yeah.
so like I think Dio is a strong contender coming into this
Mm.
meta. At least certainly on the face of it, when people are like trying to figure things out. And Dio in a fresh meta is a powerful deck that asks a very difficult question of how do you stop breakpoint boom grenades?
Yeah, if we're talking about like the aggro decks of the format, I think it basically becomes Dio and Acilio. Now that's actually a very interesting situation because both of these heroes, Acilio, for I know you guys can't see it, but it literally 5 out of 5 stars in top terms of difficulty. This is considered the hardest hero to play in the game according to LSS, and Dio is obviously not very far behind. I think Dio is one of the more tricky decks to play. So we no longer have a straightforward, easy to play red deck wins aggro deck in the format. I guess you could say that Mario is kind of an aggro deck, but that's also not easy to play,
It
and he
ain't
got
easy.
some,
It ain't
and he
easy.
got some
I
tools
learned that the
taken
hard
from him.
way. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe this opens up some other aggro decks like KO heavy hitters, Marlin,
Mhm.
like a super
Yeah,
aggressive
Marlin's
leaning
already good.
Ira,
Could
super
be
aggressive
quite
leaning
good.
Kasai. Um, so
I
yeah.
would just be worried about like a Victor rolling in,
Mhm.
right? Like what does Victor look like if you take away OGKO, which is obviously going to be a bad matchup, right? Because you're never winning clashes. You just have no hero power. That historically has been a very rough matchup for Victor. You're actually starting to look pretty decent across the board, right? Like you're really good into Dio. You're really
Yeah,
good in
that's the big one there.
yeah.
For
Like
Dio.
I think it gets really interesting, and that's kind of when I say defensive deck, that's kind of what I'm like alluding to. Now the ultimate question is like, is Gravy going to take a backseat enough to actually get enough room to play something like that? That's ultimately what's going to determine that,
Mhm.
because you don't need chart the high seas to beat a Victor with Gravy. It's just a reality. You just don't need it. Um,
Yeah.
Especially if flying high comes in its spot, like that actually could make the matchup worse, if that's the
Yeah.
card that goes in. So like, it gets really interesting. So I mean, ultimately, like that's why I think a lot of people are gonna have the knee jerk reaction, like this is our moment. But then they're gonna realize that Gravy's still 20% of the meta, and they're gonna say, "Shit, okay, maybe it's not." And then we'll get to the like DO conversations and things like that. I think it's gonna take an event or two for people to realize that it's still not the Guardians' time.
Okay. All right. So we have some aggro decks that kind of are always going to be a pillar of flesh and blood. Some people always prefer the aggro decks.
Mhm.
We don't really know exactly
Yep.
what the aggro deck's going to be, but there will always be an aggro deck. We talked about there being a board-based deck, so we have Gravy. Andrew, obviously you love Prism. How does this B&R affect Prism? The other
Man.
board-based deck.
So, yeah.
Has to make her worse. Has to make her worse.
Yeah, so most of the decks getting a hit were matchups we wanted to see. Prism is a counter meta pick, is what she's kind of always been. And the meta in these decks, Gravy, Syndra, Mario, Verdance, these are all decks who Prism wanted to, or at least in some variation, wanted to see. And certainly the bans that happened for those decks make those matchups better for Prism. Seeing Rootbound Carapace go away is a great thing for Prism into the Verdance and Florian matchups. Don't get me wrong. However, pretty much every deck that's going to fill into the meta that we can maybe predict here is a bad matchup for her.
These two.
For one reason or another, right? And then, as previously mentioned, with the Kano going, those sideboard slots, it's a very easy thing to just grab some extra poppers to bring in for the Prism matchup. And something like the Asilios and Dios, for example, which are already rough for her, can swing with one extra popper that shows up like really hard. Now, with that said, I don't think either of those were the people who had extra sideboard slots for well, actually, that's not even true. Asilios did have sideboard slots that they could run for Kano. Dios didn't really need to because they had natural like AB
throttle and
Fizzy or Charm.
It's max V.
Yeah. So even though I'm talking to myself through it now, like even they could theoretically bring an extra popper or two to those matchups. So and of course the big one being KO himself. Yep. That has always been her nightmare of a matchup, at least as far as the popular high percentage in the meta brutes are concerned. Reinhardt might be a worse matchup, but you don't see him nearly as often.
Right.
Okay.
So if KO is coming back to help close out the rest of his Living Legend points in the RTN season, it's hard for her. I think she's still fine because, as I said, I don't think the meta shift is going to be so massive that she loses those good matchups, like she loses access to them. But I think I agree, Nathan. It is overall going to be a rougher time for her out there.
So,
do we agree that the next red deck wins is going to be OGKO? That's where I'm kind of envisioning the most linear aggro deck, easy, except Dio may end up being better, right? But obviously the difficulty will always hold her back numbers wise. So I think
just wanted to swing face,
it's your RTN season. Like, expect 20% of the room to be KO is a very safe safe bet.
Solace of Space, I hate that statement. And I never want to see you at an event.
Fair enough. Okay, so let me briefly talk about the Warriors. Now that I've heard you guys talk a little bit about your thoughts on the metagame. So the heroes that got hit traditionally were very bad matchups. For example, Florian, I don't think a single warrior had a favorable matchup into Florian. Whether that's Raiden, Bolton, all the way to Decimator, Great X, whatever. Like I Fang for a little bit, maybe slightly favored at like 55%, but this hero was very difficult for a lot of warriors. And obviously D-reacts are very annoying against all the warriors. So the Earth heroes losing a D-react against us is obviously huge. Also, traditionally, Verdance was very difficult for every single warrior. We didn't get to use our dynamos. We didn't get to use our bracers. We had to run AB in certain slots. We often we often started at like 35 if they went first. Like, obviously, and so this was also a very tough matchup. I think most of the warriors were actually pretty good into Syndra. Whether you were Dorinthia or Kasai, I think you were okay into Syndra. So I don't. This just gets a little bit better, sure. And then most of the warriors were pretty solid into Gravy. I did briefly talk about how one possible way that you could lose this matchup was them high rolling a bit, and taking away Chart the High Seas does affect that a bit. So I actually think all the warriors get better, frankly, from all these B&Rs. Also, Kano. Oh man, when we were in a respect Kano meta, we had to dedicate 4 slots to that hero. Maybe 5. If we were really respecting Kano, that's 2 extra AB plus the Arcane Compliance. That was 5 sideboard slots gone for the Warriors. Also, like things like Halo of Illumination for Bolton. We didn't run Halo of Illumination, but we had to. So yeah. So I think this is all just good for Warriors. They still have the speed to compete with the aggro decks if they're built correctly. Obviously, the very very defensive decks could pose a little bit of an issue. I think KO is actually kind of difficult for a lot of the Warriors as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's probably good for them, but Jarl, KO, Victor, these are not matchups you want to see. But not having to fight a Florian or a Verdance, generally, you probably are slightly positive EV for all the Warriors from this B&R.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't Kasai been traditionally favored into KO, into heavy KO?
That was before Super Slam. Before Super Slam, that statement would be correct. I believe it's the opposite now with the introduction to Buck Wild specifically.
Yes.
I think that
Wild
singular
gives them-
card flips the math. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned that I thought Buck Wild reminded me a lot of Malefic Incantation. It's like such a good card that it just takes the KO deck from it took like Viscerai from good to like ridiculous. It's the same thing as it takes KO from good to ridiculous. I found that the KO, they just jam their armor on your first meaningful turn, no reprise, you're sad.
Yep.
You lost a card to the headpiece, and then their damage output is just really high because that's the brute class identity. And then they're just consistent enough. Like a lot of the decks don't even run Scabskin Leathers against you. They run Beaten Trackers. I feel validated. I remember. Do you remember, David, back at Everfest? I said that card was going to be good, and you were. I remember this specifically. I was like, eventually this card is going to be used, dude. I can tell. I talked to Jack. Jack Tig told me, "Oh my god, this card's good." I'm like, okay. But yeah,
it must be.
Yeah.
That card is the reason I can't get behind the prison players who say to side gamblers' gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Warriors basically preyed on KO having an off turn, and with so many Buck Wilds in the deck and consistent go again. I mean, it just never. It can happen. It just the chances.
Their numbers
it's not
are just better,
a valid
and the game is
right.
not quick enough, not long enough. Yeah. The headpiece
but
also
on your topic
cuts
of
off so many playlines. Yep.
Yeah, on your topic of Warriors, I think the one in particular that wins the most, I think you kind of alluded to it, was Fang. I think it's an interesting pick because the one card that's really been holding him back, of course, is probably Scour. That's probably like
oh boy,
the one that hurts him the most. And now, if Verdance makes up a lot less representation, then it does kind of open the door. I get the one question that would kind of have to be answered first to kind of validate whether Fang is going to actually show up in droves or not is what's the reason to play a Cilio now? Because if I'm not mistaken, you were doing it to kind of pick on Gravy. That was like your main course, if you will, and then you were kind of also really good into Verdance as well, because you were kind of just doing your thing and they just weren't quick enough. So, do we think that a Cilio just naturally gets worse because there's less food in the environment, give or take, or what do we think?
I don't think so. I think that when the meta gets shaken up like this, so again, this is going to be something that changes over the course of the season as kind of things shake out and things settle. I think, much like with Dio, a good place to start is to be a strong, aggressive deck that asks a difficult question. I think Acilio does that. So certainly out the gate, I think he will be quite strong, just coming from a position of strength in this meta and not having himself having lost anything. And then the Marionette hits, that was a bit of a tough matchup for him. So having their consistency and ability to get like the turn one block with Mask, get Black Widow, and also have your Callisto because you have the Spinneret thing going.
True.
I think that's a big deal for him specifically. And I think that the where did it go? If indeed Guardians start showing up a little bit more, I think that for practiced and experienced Acilio players, those can be still pretty good matchups. Even ones like Jarl, would you be like, oh, they're going to blow up your Lightning Greaves? Well, it turns out you can win that matchup pretty handily without those. But it's not an easy thing to do to just like pick up and
The
do.
thing
How
that's
does Acilio do into like Disruptive Guardian?
You're talking like
Like a
Test of
Victor.
Iron, Grip, Victor kind of thing?
Yeah, Test of Iron, and I'm assuming that there has to be like some Guardian cards with relevant text. Not like Crush the Weak is an example, right? Obviously, it doesn't apply to Acilio, but I'm saying there has to be like a Crush Confidence
mean-
or a Crush the Weak that has application to to Acilio in some
Yeah,
form.
I mean, Spinal hurts as much as anybody else, right?
Right. Yep, that's a good one.
Although actually, let me double check this. It's been a minute since I've played this. I'm pretty sure Spinal does not stuff the combo turn, because I'm pretty sure Spinal doesn't affect instants that go again.
I think it says actions. Yeah.
Yep.
Hero actions, activate abilities, and attack. Like, yep, doesn't include instants. So you can still get through that. So yes, you can get aggroed and just disrupted down by a Guardian, but I think that the Acilio deck is, I won't say it's favored. I don't think it's unfavored either. Is where I'm going to put it. I think it's a pretty even matchup, that style of thing. So the losses here. Oh, and of course, Acilio actually it was rough into Syndra. Is the other thing. So Syndra going down is a direct boon to Acilio.
Sure.
Also, Kano leaving is also probably good for Acilio as well.
Yes,
because you didn't really interact with the Kano's arsenal at all. So I guess Mind Warp, but yeah.
I mean, Fleshbag is like really good into Acilio, right?
Yeah.
Like absolutely broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think of the heroes that are going to make a resurgence here, the ones you're mentioning, Dio and KO, to sort of bring the counterbalance to what I was saying a moment ago, yes, are also tough matchups for Acilio.
Right.
The KO one, I think it's the disruptive elements for the arsenal, and the Fleshbag. Yes, I think I want to say some of that is just making sure to not put the Gone in a Flash in your arsenal if you can avoid it. Put the random instant in there instead.
Sure.
Same as
I think if KO players want to win that matchup, they'll win it, because the second you throw like weakest links and stuff like that, like you're just
that is a good point. This could be a meta where weakest link surges back up for sure.
And
that card's really good into both Dio and Acilio. So
Echo of Amulet of Echoes is also
ironically
very strong
has percentage into KO himself too.
Yeah. Yep. I think the main thing is that Acilio is a very difficult deck. So even if he is strong, he won't be popular. So kind of like Kano. Okay. Is there any other deck we think might have a large change in the meta share?
I think Rhinar has to get like way better, right? Like Syndra just took a huge hit.
Let me call Eugene.
I know everybody says this every single time, right? I know everybody says this every single time.
No, this is the Dory players thing. They always say that.
But think about it, like your most red deck wins deck is KO and maybe Dio and maybe some version of Vasilio. Like the thing that made Reinar so weak is when you had a deck that could just start off the races and do good numbers every single turn. Rune Blades, low to the ground ninja, things like that. That's gone, right? Does not exist, basically, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think Syndra will make up a lot of representation. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess the ultimate question is like, why would you play him over KO? Is ultimately what's going to be the differentiating factor. But I mean, if we do see a world where Guardians and stuff like that do make it in, and like there's a reason that I think that's the counter. I think you just swap what route you're playing.
I can answer your question, and I have it on authority that this is the official reason because Eugene said so. Eugene has made a campaign for people to play Reinhardt, not KO, so that claws do not LL. That's why you should play Reinhardt.
Okay.
Help Eugene out, boys.
Help Eugene. Okay, got it.
Help Eugene play more Reinhardt.
Speaking of brutes, chat brings up a good point. There is another brute who's very relevant right now that we haven't brought up yet, which is the other KO. RKO.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tough Nut.
Yeah, let's talk about Tough Nut.
I said meta relevant.
Hey, one day, Tough Nut's going to do it. I'm telling you.
They're going to print a card called
so that's
Bigger
another
Rock.
hero who is very, very potent mid-range. If the meta is slowing down, then it's probably good news for him in general. I think he still has a gravy issue. I don't think that's been solved. To my knowledge, I'm sure they have their strategies for it, but I still think it's probably unfavored for them. But that seems like it's, again, Acilio and Dio, heroes who start off on lower life coming in. Maybe your reviled hero wants to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That is true.
Yeah, I think RKO, what are your worst matchups? Probably OGKO, right? Because he can just push a lot easier, and then once he takes the life total lead, it can get really dicey really quick. You're basically favored until the first Blood Rush Bellow, and then you're like extremely unfavored. It's kind of how that matchup goes, I would imagine. But other than that, like what are you worried about, right? Like, I think you can actually play a back and forth game with Verdance now because you get to run AB at such a cheap price with Skullhorn, and then you have you're still pretty decent into Prism, and you're still terrible into Gravy, of course. That's not going anywhere. So the ultimate question becomes, once again, like all three brutes that are relevant, what are you trading for what? And it seems like OGKO is just the best overall from like an even spread perspective. And then Reinhardt kind of beats up on the anybody that's trying to do any kind of fatigue or anything like that. And then RKO is just your mid-range king, right? Is kind of the different angles. And I think it's just going to be a recipe for like what plugs in better where.
Yeah. I think, as I understand it, RKO has at least sometimes has an issue with the dual wield warriors actually managing to outvalue him and being able to
it can definitely happen because defensive mid-range is like the core
if he ever falls behind in
KO.
that matchup, it's gone for him. Like it's done.
And warriors can check their fridge. Both the brute and the warrior just check their fridge the first two turns, and then they play from there. And then if you ever fall behind, you're in trouble there. Nathan, I did want to talk a little bit about Huntsman. This is a hero. I remember you mentioned that Syndra was a tough matchup sometimes. So,
yes, it was.
So
yes, it was.
And Gravy was obviously probably the hardest matchup. So those two getting out of here obviously should help out this deck a little bit. The format slowing down a little bit should help this deck a little bit.
Unfortunately, So I solved the Verdance matchup, right? Which unfortunately is not going to be extremely relevant anymore. Once again, I don't think Verdance is like going away. She'll still be like very relevant. But just the way that she interacts is going to change, and that's going to have a different impact on the meta. But you're right, Syndra goes away. But the unfortunate aspect is OG KO is what will replace Syndra, and that matchup is 10 times worse.
Oh,
Where Syndra is a 45-55, probably favoring Syndra. KO is like a
Hmm.
probably like an 80-20. It's
Okay.
absolutely dog shit.
Okay, we've mentioned KO several times now. If we think this is the new Syndra, what attacks KO?
Pull up my charts. Hang on.
pull up that.
So it's not dual
Fabry-
wielding warrior anymore.
It's not. I
Yeah,
know
fat,
that.
pull up Flat Blazing.
Yeah, that's fine. We do.
So, to my understanding, Gravy has been good into KO pretty much since the inception. And I don't think that... Well, this is actually one of the matchups that the chart ban actually might be relevant into.
Right, exactly.
Because it is one that can go pretty quick. So having that spike of value can be really nice for him. That said, I think it probably is still Gravy favored. I think that
he doesn't run very much AB. Like Verdance should also be kind of annoying. If Verdance plow unders or fellings a card away, like you're a KO on 5, 4, and 3 cards are very, very different. So
historically,
yes.
Marlin does very well in the KO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
even with all the
pretty
huge
good.
fridge. Okay, fair.
Yeah,
Ain't
because,
big enough.
I mean,
Yeah,
you can only block one of them.
Yeah, that's
everything
true.
else is hitting.
And
That's
flashback doesn't matter in the matchup. That's actually a big deal. Flashback
Right.
doesn't do
exactly.
jack.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, like you had Gravy, which was kind of dicey, but that may be closer to 50-50 now, with you getting Buck Wild on the positive side for KO and then losing Chart on the negative side for Gravy. And then Florian was a pretty rough matchup. That got hit.
That's not
so
Marionette still is in consideration.
Yep.
I don't think the spinnerets were as relevant there. Again, the usual, because I don't think the Black Widow high roll into them on like turn 1 was as important. I might be speaking out of something there.
Okay.
So it's a matchup that's at least close. And Mario should still definitely be around. So that is a contender against KO.
Right.
If not Mario favored. And then Chad is suggesting some other things to
balance of
sort of
justice
step in and
stonks.
stop him.
Definitely going up.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh wait, no, we clearly KO is unplayable. He can't beat Valda.
Oh shit! Oh yeah! Oh no!
I mean, bro, just throw your bellows away. You can't beat Valda. What are you doing? Like,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we see you, Capomolo.
Unplayable. Meta solved. Like, go on.
All right,
Gotcha.
this is the hero of the meta, guys, right here. If you want
honestly,
the deck,
I
that
would
beats
like
the
to
deck.
see a lot of Valda. Like, don't get me wrong, Valda's my favorite Guardian. So
if we're talking about strong female figures, why don't we go here or here?
Yeah, these bans are the most relevant thing to happen to Master Guardian pack.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the funny thing is, other than a potential sort of KO flashes up before he LLs, I hope to see at least that this is going to take an already pretty
points or so. He could be gone very.
Yeah. Like he could be gone.
RTN season, he could buy the dust.
He could be gone in RTN season. Yeah.
So, other than him quickly rising up and then getting out, I'm hoping that this takes an already pretty wide meta and just widens it even further. Like that, it feels like that could happen here, which would be great.
Yeah, the RTN meta is probably going to be pretty good.
I feel like it has to, right? Because like
You would think so. One would think so.
Like the only thing in the meta left that I think is just excruciatingly dominant, in my opinion, has to be gravy. Like that's the only thing left that's like
Mhm.
you got to have an answer for it, right? Like if you don't,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't be playing the deck. Like that's the only like question left that's unanswered. Everything else is like Verdance. I think a lot of decks can find a way to win because you got to be a lot more
Mhm.
proactive, and there's a lot of different. I think that's the biggest question to answer.
Cinder still have to rethink their lives, so you can think about that.
Yep.
So, yeah. There are going to, of course, be people who prefer when a meta is narrower, so you can play more of the picks and counter picks kind of game, instead of it being like, hey, you could face anything. So we'll see out the gate. I think certainly for the first week or two of RTN and these first events leading up at the start of January, like Battle Hard in Atlanta, and anything else that's happening around that time. I would recommend prepping for the event like you could play anything. So just bring your best, strongest deck into just a generic field.
We get to see
Gravy, maybe KO accepted.
the impact of this B&R this weekend in Hong Kong. We get to see this weekend what this B&R did. So yeah, that'll be if Blue Pitch start asking about my Dory deck, we'll see.
I mean, even the Dory deck. I mean, you lost the Syndra matchup, which was kind of like the whole reason to play it, or the main reason to play it. You're still good in the Gravy, of course, but like,
Gravy was the
I think you also gain a lot to lose. If Guardian does make it in, you have, Guardian's Worst Nightmare, which is Staunch Response, and then, some other cards that are extremely relevant. So it's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Just have your Desi switchboard and you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, without Kano in there anymore, might as well start rocking the DGA a little bit. Okay, we have done a poll in chat. It looks like about 70% of people think it's positive, 20% think it's neutral, and 10% of people have a negative view on the B&R.
And they all play Syndra.
I actually want to ask the 9% of people who voted that they thought this was negative. Why do you guys feel that this B&R was negative? I do feel like LSS articulated their thoughts on the metagame very well in the article. And I do agree that the metagame has been kind of stale for a while. And that's partly because Super Slam was not such a super set in terms of metagame impact. So if you're part of that 10% of people that have negative thoughts on the B&R, why do you feel like that?
Now, that's actually a pretty good thought process, because like this article, in my opinion, was probably, as far as the information they gave us, it was the best one they've ever done.
Yes, very well written.
They broke it down. They were like, we chose this card instead of this card. We, or this is coming down the pipeline, and instead of just, oh, we had to attack the consistency, so we picked this card.
To be fair, this is also one of the first times where they've kind of been coming into B&R without an active crisis on their hands.
Yes, that is true.
That's fair. So they kind of got to it was a playground, basically, is
a
what
little
it was.
bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
many hard feelings. So I see, okay, we've got someone who said they didn't feel like Gravy got hit enough. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, because I think he's the last one that's just left to be possibly dominant.
Yeah, that's actually several comments coming out. It's just all about like the Gravy hits, or not the thing they wanted to get hit from him, or something like that. Feel like it was overall heavy-handed. Certainly from Cinder, we mentioned that earlier. That there's an argument to be made there.
I think it was heavy-handed if you go into the thought process as they're trying to balance the format, and that's not at all what they're trying to do. They're just trying to shake it up. And you like if you just take Wrath, does that just shake it up? No. People are going to play the exact same Syndra deck. They're going to
Just one
replace that one card with Devastate Devotion or something, and then there's your meta for the next 4 months. Like it's going to be just the same shit. Like nothing's going to change. So you had to either take Brand by itself, or you had to take Wrath and something else, and they just chose both. You know, that's so.
Yeah, we'll get Brand back. Syndra will have her day again. If and this is a big if, assuming she isn't still perfectly fine right now once people retool a little bit.
Right.
We'll have
Definitely
to
be
see
worse,
the Cinder players
but
figure that out.
probably still good.
Yeah.
Somebody brings up Fearless Confrontation being more problematic than Chum. I do think that card is one of the biggest feels bad cards in existence. Yeah. It's like, time to clear your Sawbones. It's like, I don't think you're going to clear my Sawbones. Yeah.
It's interesting, Shane, you bring up like what farms Gravy. I don't think Cinder even farmed Gravy. Honestly, I don't think that's that's even a thing to argue. That wasn't certainly like she was probably good into Gravy because of the interaction there, but like farming him, no, not at all, not at the high levels.
Yeah, I mean, Gravy's worst matchup has to be Acelia, right?
Yes.
Where it currently stands.
It's one of the worst matchups.
Of the decks that were up there, yeah, probably. Although what's hang on. What's the Kasai Gravy matchup? Because she gets the thing, right?
I mean, Kasai has her own board state to fight back, plus she's a dual-wield warrior. Most dual-wield... She doesn't have access to cleave. Yeah. So there are some board situations where you're like... Because Kasai, depending on how she's built, she can't place her damage exactly where she wants. So one of the worst situations is you have to, like, attack... You're forced to attack into the taunt ally, Blade Runner it, and then attack into the taunt ally again, and then it's like, okay, that's pretty bad. But in general, dual-wield warriors are fine against Gravy. Especially if you're hatchets. If you have hatchets, you have access to cleave, you're fine.
Let's see.
Well, yeah, I do think this is a sufficient shakeup for the RTN season. And then at the end of RTN season will be Compendium. And obviously that will be one of the most impactful sets that we've had in a long time, because literally every single class and talent is being supported in that set. There's also like 60-something equipment. Like a single piece of equipment can completely change a hero, especially if they're weapons. Like DGA opens up a whole style, like Luminars 2.0. Do you remember Luminars Angel's Glow, Andrew?
Yeah. Oh, I remember. Boy, howdy, do I remember.
Oh my god.
You gotta understand, I was a one player before that.
Change a whole hero. So yeah.
To be fair, like 99% of that's going to be tailored to rekitting Sage. It should be.
But there's like 60-something.
But at the same time,
60-something
Sage cards are CC playable. Like, I mean, I've mentioned it a few times at this point. The Phi card that's been spoiled, that's been printed there, is Sage playable. It's a rare, I believe, but we'll absolutely see play in the CC deck and help it out.
Right.
So the cards that are there for Sage, I think, will absolutely make a splash in CC as well, even beyond the actual CC Majestics and Legendaries, whatnot that we see. And of course, we are getting a new hero at around that time with Hala. We don't know hardly anything about yet. We can only speculate.
That is the #1 question I got asked in Philadelphia. It wasn't even, hey Josh, how's your tournament going? Hey Josh, nice to meet you. It's just, hey Josh, what do you think of Hala? I'm like, well, you know nothing about the hero, bro. What am I supposed to tell you? But yeah, I also do think that because this set is like 300-something cards, plus we also have the like the gold foil pack or the bonus pack. So there could be up to 400 cards there.
I'm calling them treasure packs. I don't care what anybody says.
Treasure packs.
That's what they are.
The compendium treasure packs. Also, it is possible that the volumes, the 10 volumes for the Sage pre-constructed decks could also have new cards there too. So we could get 400
I
cards.
want to
for
say it's
this.
confirmed that they do.
Okay, the 400
Really?
cards. Yeah.
I can't remember where I heard that. If this is going to be secondhand of secondhand here, but
Sure.
I am currently operating under the impression that there are new cards in those Sage decks.
Sure.
In those pre-codes.
Oh god.
So we're looking at 400 cards.
Aurora first strike deck
Yeah.
strikes twice.
Yeah, you need your second strike and your shock striker or whatever it's called. Okay.
Well, I mean, like, what would Icelander's weapon be? Other than Crucible? Oh no, never mind. That one is Crucible.
I
We know
remember
that
seeing
one's
Alan and
Crucible.
Shane play, and there was a
Never
Crucible
mind.
there. So, yeah.
We've seen that one.
But oh wait, yeah, that's Sage, not CC. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Should be good. Should be good. And that's actually coming up faster than you think. The last set was like end of August, beginning of September. We've been in the cycle in Flesh and Blood now for several years, where the fall set comes out and then you have to wait all the way to February. But it's not that far away, guys. Yeah. It's not that far away. Month or so. James White did confirm that we will know all the cards before the actual world premiere, so that does help. Those that are going to London.
Good.
Also, just gives us a little bit more time to brew and all that, so that'd be good. But I think right after that, isn't there a PQ season, or am I crazy? Or
RTN.
I know we have
our RTN seasons at the start of January. Like January 4th.
There is a ProQuest season right around when Pen
February, March, yeah, something like that. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
there is.
That's right. It's like 8 weeks long because they're doing the first 4 weeks are Sage and then the next 4 weeks are CC. You're right.
Like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So there's a lot of Flesh and Blood to be played, and things are looking.
I've been taking a nice little break here.
Me too.
And none of it's LL.
Yeah.
And none of it's
I
LL.
know, right?
Oh, well.
I had to put the little jab in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good old LL. All right. If you guys in chat have any, PQ Vegas. That's it. ProQuest Vegas is in.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
After RTN season.
Gotta get that set up.
Yep. Okay.
100% going to that one.
Yeah.
It's the best venue ever. Playing poker with all the fab players.
The hotel
you put any event in Vegas. I don't care what it is. Put it. I'm there.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. If you guys in chat have any questions, you can leave them, and we'll try to answer them.
What are your guys' dark horse picks for the upcoming meta that we haven't mentioned yet?
Oh God.
Are we in a Riptide meta?
I always get it can't be Riptide. It's so shit into gravy.
I'm gonna go with Marlon.
Marlon's an okay one.
It's that. She's
We
aggressive.
talked about decks that beat up on KO.
Yeah, this is one of them.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And actually, I think historically, Vinny actually does really good. And you still dog shit into gravy, but if you're willing to take that L, then there's a window there. Other than that, I mean, the only dark horse, if you could find, we memed on it a little earlier, but if you could find a Valda deck that could at all play into gravy, via fatigue strategy or something. Just let the record show that I don't think it exists, but if it does, if somebody can get there with it, then that's huge, right? If you can beat gravy and KO, you probably have the best deck in the room if you can beat those two decks. I just don't know what deck beats both of those.
Might I suggest Puffin?
Puffin? Okay. I mean, I've always had a soft spot for this hero.
Does it?
I mean, it's. I won't say it's fantastic, like super turbo favored into either of them. But KO doesn't exactly have the cleanest way of killing the bird a lot of the time. And she does have the ability to just use her gun to kill the ally at the end of the turn.
You just claw the bird, right?
You can't. Well, the thing is, the new KO builds can't swing the claw nearly as often as the old ones did, because of things like Buckwild.
That is true.
And if you are swinging the claw, that's generally 5 damage off Blood Rush.
Well, it just means you would block with an extra claw instead of going 7 into 8. You would just go 7 into 3 that one turn.
Yeah, but still 3 at the bird. It's still a 3 value
I mean,
bird
and
that drew you a card.
you're not wrong, but then you have to do something productive the rest of the game is the problem. I mean, I don't hate
Yeah.
the idea.
Like
to be
she's
honest.
already kind of okay, so like I could see her creeping up here a little bit. I would
I
like
think
it.
my
I like
pick is
Puffin. I like Puffin a
actually
lot.
my serious pick would actually be Ira. I think that you can
Mm.
build an Ira deck that is extremely aggressive into gravy. You know, you run your cut throughs and your, you know, there's enough aggressive cards there. And then on the other side, you have just a bunch of D reacts that you can run into because Flick Flat goes hard into KO. I mean,
Block
insane amounts of
9,
value.
send
Right,
8.
like
Mhm.
it's absolutely wild, and you get
Yeah.
to force pressure if you run Mask of Momentum, and I mean, there's just a ton of edges to be had there. So I think off the top of my head, I think the closest deck to really, and Ira can even give Guardians and stuff like that some trouble, right? Because you go a little real low to the ground, weird numbers and things like that. So I think the dark horse or the the hero that's going to give the most surprise, I think, is probably going to be Ira.
Yeah.
Someone
I
called Naib.
yeah.
It's
she's
his
also
moment.
fairly straightforward to play if you
Mhm.
build her in that block 2 send 2 style.
Mhm.
Really interesting. Really interesting. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna pick Vincent because I think this hero is very similar to
Don't do it, Josh.
Acilio. Was like
Don't-
1 card away from being good. Like she's like
Uh,
1
It's
card
been one
away.
card
she,
away the past
she will
3
always
cards.
be one card.
Yeah.
She's one hero ability from being good.
Do you know
That's
why
what
I
you
have a
meant to
soft
say.
spot for Vincent? Vincent and
She's
Bolton
one
are
hero
almost
ability.
Vincent and Bolton are almost the same hero. They operate. They're these
Yeah.
3 heroes are the same. These 3. There's no Corbett wants you to tell them the difference between these 2 heroes. They're the same hero. All right.
Everybody keeps mentioning Lyeth
All
in
right.
the
All
comment
right.
or
Let's talk about
in the
Lion.
chat, so we
Not
got to
the
at least talk
gravy.
about that. But I saw what Jason did, and I talked with Jason afterwards and everything, and it does a thing. But I think he got a lot of points from people just not knowing what the fuck was going on. I mean, like he said that he juiced like 3 or 4 people with that little +1 instant reaction, that booze or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like, does he actually win those games if the opponent doesn't discard their entire hand, right? Like that's the ultimate question. You know what I'm saying? So like if you get one of those elements of surprise, then like you can just automatically win a game. Now, I'm not saying that the deck is bad. I'm just saying that previously there was a lot of equity to be gained by people not knowing what was happening. Now that it's in the limelight a little bit, people are actually playing a game or two against it. I think it'll lose a lot. And then also, I don't think the deck's that good into KO either, or particularly Gravy either.
I still don't know what he does. I don't know what any of these Super Slam heroes do. So you know.
It will never not be comical to me that the hero who halves the base power is the one sending the tower attacks.
Yeah. Very on theme.
That's fine.
Somebody wants us to quickly talk about Pallades.
Pleiades? I mean,
sure.
I think Pleiades is only as good as how much she can leverage from confidence, right? Unless you want to go like Degen fatigue or something like that. But like, I mean, it's just the value that you can leverage from confidence because there's some good auras, right? Like the one that discounts by 1 every single
yeah.
turn is absolutely insane. But
She is
you have
what
to keep
happens next deck.
yeah, but you have to keep playing cards to render the value from that card is the problem. And I don't think a lot of people factor that into their value calculations. And she can do some exceptionally mid things if you do the math across the board instead of just in the silo that is 1 turn. Not saying
And
she's
she doesn't
bad. I'm
get
just saying, you know, you got to do it all.
she doesn't get to run the disruption that some of the other Guardians do. And I
Right.
think that's going to be pretty important in this upcoming meta.
Mhm. Yep, yep, yep. All right. Nathan picked Ira. I picked Vincent. Andrew, what's your official pick?
I said Puffin.
Puffin. Okay.
Puffin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Puff.
All
One
right.
other thing that's very funny about Puffin into KO is Palantir Aeronaut is a house. It kind of always forces out Fleshbag.
Mhm.
That's true. That's true.
Gotta pull that card up. I don't remember what that does.
It blows shit up, is what it does. It is a
It
house
forces
that you
them
got
to
to set
block
up
with
for
an
it.
equipment. Yeah, and if you tap all 3 cogs, it destroys a card blocking it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
very frequently, it just draws the the Fleshbag on it, because otherwise they're getting their extra block, or like their chest piece or something blown up, or the specifically the new arms, I forget what they're called right now, the one that you tap to make a +1 of the pitch, those ones that you can accrue a
Gauntlets.
bunch of value if you can keep it around. Like you can't put those on the Palantir.
Cool.
Or
Okay.
I mean, you can, they just really don't want to.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. All right. I think we've kind of covered everything pretty thoroughly. We still have a couple callings, and then we have Battle Hard in Atlanta. So we'll get a couple of data points before going into the RTN season. So I do think the metagame will be fairly open. You can pretty much play what you want to play. I think it's. I think even if you enjoy playing Cinder, Verdance, Gravy, or Mario, I think you can still take those decks out, and that they should be still okay. So, yeah. Any final thoughts, guys?
That's it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. See you in Atlanta.
Yeah, we will. You know what? Now that I think about it a little bit more, maybe Kano leaving is going to have a bigger impact than we thought. But we'll see, because this is like maybe we'll have a bunch of degen fatigue decks. We'll see. We'll see.
I'll tell you, one event it will matter for is actually Battle Hard in Atlanta, because I know for a fact we had like 3 or 4 diehard Kano players in the area who can't do that anymore.
Yep.
So for that event specifically, I know for a fact it'll matter.
Yep. Quack, if you're watching, if you ever want to beat up an AB1 warrior with no interaction, you can beat me up, bro. It's okay. I'll play my AB1 warrior no CNC into you, and you can beat me up.
Unless it's in the finals of a calling, and then you lose it anyway.
Yeah. Hey, spoilers.
If you haven't
Josh
seen that
said,
game, go watch it. Oh my god, that is.
Josh said, play what you want. So bring your Betsies, bring your Teklos, have a good time.
Yep, exactly. Yep, I might pick up Bolton again. We'll see. It's been a while.
Bring your Boltons for sure.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to play Bolton all year, basically. All right. I think that's going to cover everything. Nathan and I might be streaming this week. We might be just chilling. I don't know.
Yeah, I got one more before the holidays.
Yep, we'll see. All right. This has been Josh Lau, Andrew Cook, and Nathan Crawford with TheCardGuyz. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great holiday, y'all.